Hey guys, welcome to the ThinkSports Podcast. Today we have an episode about the UFC and UFC 254. We have two guests today, Tyron and Devin. They're both intense UFC fans, and so we're gonna kind of touch up about Khabib and like his career, with what we think of his retirement, what we think of the fight, and we'll kind of go from there. Maybe we'll touch up on a few of the other fights in the card. So I want to throw this out to Tyron first, right? Talk to me about what you thought about Khabib's performance. What do you think about that fight?
If you look back, okay, so a lot of people say he's undefeated and he hasn't lost a round. But if you do a little further research, you look into his earlier UFC fights, you look into the Gleison Tibau fight, which a lot of hardcore fans will not. They'll just, they're sort of, Khabib fanboys. And after a performance like that, I feel he redeems himself times 10. That was close to flawless in my opinion. He took shots, but he knew that he called it also. He said it's only the first round which people like Conor and Justin are dangerous. And then after you tend to get them to the ground, which he did with ease, with all that D1 wrestling, and Justin just couldn't get him off. Couldn't get him off. And Conor, I think he mentioned his prediction before the fight, and he had mentioned something really specific which a lot of people lost. So he said that Justin's wrestling was extremely good, which is right. He is a very good defensive wrestler, but in comparison to Khabib's grappling, Justin had no grappling whatsoever. On the ground, he looked lost. It was just a matter of time. It was surviving. It was all surviving for Justin. So I think, in my opinion, Khabib was just levels ahead of Justin on the ground. Even on the feet, you notice he got, I think, cracked by one good, I think it was a left hook, if I'm not wrong, a left hook or an overhand right. I didn't see anything else. I think I saw Khabib land him with a good knee, which I thought shook up Justin a little bit. So you see, he's just grown so much. I think this was his best performance, his best. I think this is 13th fight or 14th. I'm not wrong. 13th, if I'm not wrong. 13th fight. This is nowhere close to the fighter we saw at Gleison Tibau. Nowhere close.
I think I definitely agree. I think like he is levels above and you could see it. And I didn't think I think he looked a lot more comfortable on the feet, which is something that we didn't think we were gonna like something that we didn't predict before the fight. Everyone was kind of making it striker versus wrestler. But Devin, I want to hear your thoughts about the same thing. What do you think about the fight? How did it pan out for you?
Bro, I told you, I was really hyped for Justin, bro. Because I saw that Tony performance and dude, he killed Tony. He absolutely destroyed him. So I was thinking, man, like, first of all, I didn't know how great a chin Khabib had, right? But first round, dude, Khabib had him, bro. Like, bro, just the pace he'd set through that entire thing, even when he took the punches, I feel like Khabib ate a few punches, like his jabs, overhands, here and there. But dude, not phased at all, bro. Even the leg kick he was trying, bro, I think, bro, Khabib dominated that round. Just the pressure he was putting on Gaethje. By the end of the first round, he was so tired.
I think that was the telling point, right? With the fact that he took, I think Tyron was right when he said it was a check. Like I think it was a check hook when Khabib was coming in, which he took, and that's like Gaethje's signature, right? Where it's like his hands are like he knocks people out with those shots, right? And Khabib just doesn't even flinch. He doesn't do the pretend like it's not hurting me or any of that. He just keeps walking forward, walks him down, keeps him on his heels throughout the round, and then by the end, yeah, he got the takedown and everything. But even regardless, Gaethje was breathing so heavily, like just by having to move away so constantly, like he was constantly having to move. And I don't know whether it was a function of him not having like the best tank or any of that. I just think that pressure is so relentless and the fact that Khabib's jab, he uses his jab so well in that fight, right? Like where it wasn't even like he was controlling distance or anything. He was just walking forward and he was using his punches to make Gaethje like flinch and look so sloppy, right? Gaethje was throwing these weird loopy punches that you haven't seen Gaethje throw in a while. Like Gaethje like the old Gaethje who kind of got flustered when he was getting overconfident, would throw these loopy punches, try to put as much power into the shots as he could. It just looked like Gaethje was sloppy again, which I think is just like a function of how good Khabib is.
Um, yeah, just to add on to what you were saying, just one small point. So you would mention the gas tank, right? So I think a lot of fighters. I mean, if you notice, a lot of fighters, what they do, they tend to travel when they go to another place, completely different. They tend to go there a lot earlier to get acclimated to the weather, the timing. So I think, in my opinion, the fact that Khabib has fought there before, he has fought in Abu Dhabi, he's fought against Dustin Poirier there. So he does understand the weather. He's fought that he understands how to acclimate himself quicker in comparison to, say, Justin Gaethje, who hasn't. And especially with the pandemic, the way your camp goes, I think, if I'm not wrong, he always points at Justin always points out that he needs I think a 10-week camp before he usually fights. But then coming out from a war like against Tony Ferguson, a 5-round war, it's not that he just breezed through Tony. No, I saw it a lot of back and forth till about the third round, and then obviously it started to go in Justin's way. But then you see that all does really, affect a fighter. If you don't heal enough, it is going to affect you. And I think you're right. Like his gas tank after the first, it looked like he was just like he didn't know what hit him. It's just the constant moving backwards really got to him.
Did you guys hear about his camp for this fight with Khabib's? So
Yeah, I did.
Dude, like ridiculous. To begin with his toes, he had 2 broken toes.
Yeah.
And then apparently, like he had 4 weeks off where he just didn't train.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine what he must have been going through amidst this entire situation. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and like major respect for him. Like exactly what Dana White says. We're so supremely lucky to have even seen him in the octagon at UFC 254, defending his belt once again. And it's just the fact that through all of that, he has looked better than he has ever looked before. In my opinion, I think this is his best performance. And I thought his performance against Conor was near like almost flawless. I thought his performance against Poirier was flawless, bar that guillotine attempt that Poirier had. And it's just the fact that now he looks more dominant than he's ever done. And I have so much respect for kind of what he did, and the fact that he's willing to just like let it go at the peak of his game. There's no sign that he's slipping at all. And this is something I was talking to Devain about, and it's so annoying to me that these UFC judges are it's so random, right? So I don't know if Tyron read about this, but so 2 judges actually scored the first round to Gaethje. There was a 10-9 to Gaethje, and it's just like, how does that happen? What are you watching, right? Like, I mean, is there any way we can justify that?
For me, I don't think so, because I think they judge based on octagon control and who moves constantly. And I saw it was Khabib constantly moving toward Justin, and in my opinion, you can't give that. He got the takedown at the end. He had him in trouble at the end. He almost finished him at the end. You can't give that to the person who threw a few leg kicks and moved away. If you count precision in terms of striking, Khabib was the more precise striker even in the first round. Even though he didn't land as much, he threw less but landed more. So in my opinion, that is absurd. He won. He absolutely ran through that round, which is, I don't know, there's something wrong with these judges. We've seen it again and again. I don't think we're going to stop seeing it.
That's why I have so much that's why I love what Masvidal says, right? He's like, I'm never leaving it up to the judges again, right? Where he's just like, I know every time it goes to the judges, I'll lose, so I'm just going to try to finish on my opponents. But yeah, I think he landed the more significant strikes in the first round. I think he had more octagon control. He landed the takedown, went for the armbar. I have no idea how that ever goes to Justin. It makes no sense to me. Coming to the second, right? And this is something that was extremely interesting. I watched a breakdown of the movement Khabib made to kind of end the fight, right? And I'll let Devain talk about this, but the one thing I wanted to highlight was from like how he got Gaethje down to the ground, and then like how he transitioned to the submission. And it's so flawless, right? If you look at it back, so Gaethje throws the leg kick, which is supposed to be the most effective strike against the wrestlers, right? Because you kind of immobilize their legs so they can't shoot as quickly, right? And so Gaethje throws this leg kick, and that's the danger about throwing the leg kick is if they can catch it, if the wrestler can catch it, they can take you down, right? And Khabib doesn't catch it. If you see his leg, it kind of knocks him off balance, and he's dropping, and he uses that momentum to go and single leg Gaethje, and then he spins and brings him down, right? And then it's so fluid that he kind of brings him down, and immediately gets full mount, right? Immediately passes guard, gets to mount, and then gets to eventually the triangle from mount. And I want Devain to talk about the finish, because I know he was super impressed about it and what DC was talking about. So Devain, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, just a note about the entire movement, man. So generally, like, so after he went for his leg, they both ended up in a sprawl, right? And I was like, I mean, a lot of sprawls, there's some amount of resistance in like getting behind, right? And he did it flawlessly, dude. It was in seconds, like no hesitation. And after that, yeah, he progressed through. And dude, the thing about the
What DC said about the finish?
oh yeah, as to why he didn't do it, right? So basically, at that point, he had the option of going for an armbar. He had the armbar, right? That's what he was going to try for. But apparently, like the week leading up to it, he saw like Khabib saw interviews of Gaethje saying that whatever happens, he's not going to tap. And DC's and then Khabib was like, yeah, I don't want to break his hand in front of his fans. I don't want to hurt him. So he just talked about
just put him to sleep instead of trying to hurt him in front of his fans. And that's it's what amazes me about that is the presence of mind. He's so dominant that he can kind of choose between which submission he wants to go for, whether he wants to go for a triangle or an armbar. And you can almost see it, right? Like when you watch it back in slow motion, you can see him think about the armbar and then just go higher and kind of transition to the triangle and choke him out. What do you think about the movement, Taran?
So, very honestly, I thought it was beautiful. He did it so smoothly. And so, one very smart thing, which a lot of top level BJJ experts, sportsmen, you see a lot of these guys, Gilbert Melendez, they're so good at what they do. Or another welterweight, Gilbert Burns, too. So, they're so smart in what they do. So, once they don't get a submission, they quickly move to another one to, try and not burn out their arms. It didn't look like he was burning out his arms in any way. He just looked like he knew what he wanted to do. He just transitioned smoothly. Even he was like, okay, I could get you in this. No, I'll take you to this instead. I'll try and get this. So, and like you said, the armbar. If he said he's not going to tap, I think you give it about 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Ronda Rousey broke Misha Tate's arm within 3 seconds, if I'm not wrong. Her elbow snapped within 3 seconds. He knew it. So smooth. I mean, you don't see, you see fluidity with this in this particular guard with people who have, black belts, but they've been practicing for more years. This guy, Khabib, is just, in my opinion, different level. You see Chael Sonnen speak about it. You say that, even a second degree black belt doesn't move the way he does on the ground. The amount of control he has, the way he owns people, like. And I felt like you could see pictures, and I feel bad. I think Justin's a great fighter, but he just had no business being there, on the ground. You see it on his face. Same with Conor before that. You just don't see, these guys aren't on his level. The way his hips move. So it's so important especially in BJJ, it's so important, your hips. It's your hand control, your wrist control. They say it's important in wrestling. It's even more important when you're on the ground. When you can control a man's wrist and he has nothing to hold on to, you just see helplessness, and that's what you saw. And I think it was beautiful.
He also has like he kind of wraps the leg really well, right? Like he always kind of pulls behind the knee to kind of drop him. He uses it against Gaethje as well, so that because Gaethje, the most common kind of counter you see to the triangle the leg triangle is they kind of stand up and you try to drop the guy on his back, right? And you see as soon as Gaethje tries to get up, you see Khabib go and wrap the leg so that he can't really get the elevation that he wants. But that's that Sambo shit, man. Like he's just like it seems so effortless, right? Because and a big problem with Gaethje was he has clearly said that he's never worked on jiu-jitsu, right? Which I think is stupid to like try to fight Khabib without having jiu-jitsu, right? There's no way you can keep him standing, even if you have supreme confidence in your ability to sprawl. I feel like if he just like holds you against the cage, your sprawling won't help you there, right? You have to be able to kind of move get yourself out of those situations, and only having having jiu-jitsu experience helps you get rid of like people like Khabib, right? And even then it doesn't help, to be very honest. But I mean, it's just, I feel like I completely agree with, I don't think he had any business being in there with him, right? Where it's just like, because you knew it would go down to the ground, and once it was down to the ground, it looked so easy, and it just didn't look like he put up any resistance, right? Like with anything he tried, with like Khabib, it looked like Khabib transitioned into 3 different submissions within a second and a half, and then finally finished one. Right? It just didn't seem like a big deal at all to him.
Dude, I remember seeing so many videos. Everyone was like, he's an amazing defensive wrestler, right? He put a good defense up and all this jazz. And I think you only told me that, bro, his qualification, these are just qualifications, man. They're just certificates. Like that's not gonna make any difference against.
Yeah, and the thing is that his wrestling in the UFC has, like, he's a D1 NCAA wrestler, but like he hasn't particularly wrestled in the UFC, right? Like I feel like that would have helped him if I had seen him wrestle guys in the UFC, kind of if he had wrestled Dustin Poirier when they fought, right? Like because he couldn't stand and bang with Dustin Poirier. We saw that. We saw Dustin finishing him, right? If he maybe had brought that down, I felt like you always knew that he wasn't comfortable wrestling, right? Like, because that's what you see. Like you see a Derek Brunson when he's in trouble, you see him shoot for the takedown because that's where he is the most comfortable. He's the most comfortable wrestling. Justin Gaethje, I feel like he is an accredited wrestler, but I feel like isn't the most comfortable doing that in the octagon. And that's why I had said that I don't see him wrestling Khabib at all. And to top it off, Khabib was just too strong for guys at 155. And that's just how it is. Like he's just too big.
Yeah, I agree. Also, one more thing which sort of bit Justin in the ass was he spoke about how he's not going to let Khabib take him down if it's in the center of the octagon. That's exactly what happened, and you could see him, and I think that happened. It happened when the submission happened in the second round. You could see him getting taken down so easily. It was not even like a shot. He didn't even take a shot. It was just technique. It was all just, okay, I'm going to take you, and you're going to go here, and then I'm going to put my weight here. And he just, it was beautiful. He didn't shoot for it. If you see the fight again and again, he didn't shoot. He didn't necessarily shoot and put him against the cage, and how he usually grinds people out. He didn't do that, and you could see this levels. Like I'll refer to an older fight where there was another extremely high level American wrestler, Chris Weidman, when he fought Yoel Romero. They spoke about his wrestling, how that wrestling neutralized Yoel Romero, who till then usually wouldn't till the Lyoto Machida fight. He didn't need to use his wrestling, but against Chris Weidman, this particular way. Cuban wrestlers, they trip people. Okay, so they usually body lock a person, and then with subtle weight from their shoulders, and they just trip the entire person. You could see Chris Weidman lost. I saw the same thing. Yeah. I saw the same thing on our Saturday night. It is different level.
It's funny you mentioned that. It's also like, so Yoel did this thing. So he trips him, and then Chris Weidman tries to get up, and he spins to his back immediately, and it's just the most beautiful movement ever. And you're just like, you don't expect someone that big to be able to move that fast and that smoothly. But yeah, it's the same with Khabib, where it just looks so effortless, right? And it just like it didn't look like Gaethje. But I will mention Chris Weidman is a very good wrestler, and Yoel Romero just was like a level above. And Yoel Romero, I mean, there is no shame in being a level below Yoel Romero. He's had a fantastic career. But I feel like Gaethje just wasn't like wrestling, like didn't have the wrestling metal to begin with to go against Khabib. But okay, so let's move on to. I want to know what you guys think about, because I know what I think about the UFC GOAT conversation, and we'll kind of try to debate what we think about like that ranking. Maybe give me a top 3, top 5. What do you think? Does Khabib make it for you? If he doesn't, why not? So I'll start you off, Tyron.
So yeah, he definitely does. But for me, so I'll rank them starting with obviously GSP in my opinion. I think if you think about it, he's the only two people he's lost to: Matt Serra and Max Hughes.
Yeah.
He's beat both of them. Yeah. So he's beat both of them. And the main reason why, in my opinion, he's sort of made number one is there was no issue with drug abuse.
Yeah.
He was not caught. He was not caught popping anything. So, in my opinion, two-weight world champion, beat the only people who beat you. Yeah, you're number one in my opinion. Second, I definitely have to go with John Jones because I mean, see the amount of champ. I think leaving his first 2 or maybe his first 2 or 3 fights in the UFC, it's all been championship fights. 14 championship fights. You can't deny him his spot. I feel what he said, even he went on a Twitter rant and he's obviously a little salty about the situation, but you have to understand, see where he's coming from. He's right. I mean, 4 versus 14. 4 championship fights for Khabib versus 14. There's no comparison in my opinion. And if he goes up, I think it's GSP and him for number 1. I have to go right now with number 3, obviously Khabib. So yeah, those are my top 3.
What about you,
Bro, literally, I think I'd rate John Jones top to shop, right? Followed by, bro, I'll tell you why I think Khabib comes second, right? And GSP third. Simply because, dude, Khabib is just so far ahead of his peers, you know? Like, I genuinely can't see anybody defeating him at this point, right? And I'm sure, like, I mean, sure, John Jones has more title defense, but I can see Khabib staying out here for a while. John Jones has to be GOAT for me because he's just incredibly versatile. Like almost like if we go against a striker, he's going to beat him at his forte. And similarly for wrestlers. The fact that he beat DC, and that was very impressive.
Wrestle DC. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think that's still the only takedown against DC ever where he literally, like, he picks him up and drops him. Right? But okay, so I mean I agree partially with both of you, but so for me I think GSP is number 1. But it's a very close, like these are very close rankings, right? I think the only reason I put GSP number 1 is because of how long he reigned, how many title defenses he had, and exactly what Tyron said, he kind of avenged both his losses, Matt Serra and Matt Hughes, right? I put Khabib second, and I put John Jones third. The reason I put John third, so if he gets heavyweight gold, if John goes and gets heavyweight gold from either Stipe or Francis, whatever the case may be, I would put him number 1 for sure, because that's like a whole other feat, right? To be able to do that. The problem I have with John is that he's had multiple problems with performance-enhancing drugs and things like that. I feel like in terms of why I rank Khabib so highly and why I think it's like a fight between GSP and Khabib for the number 1 spot, and maybe GSP edges it out, but I'm okay to say Khabib's number 1 as well, is because I feel like out of those 3, there is only one that I can think of that has had a near flawless career, right? Like, GSP made a mistake when in his first title fight he fought Matt Hughes, he lost, right? He made a mistake that fight, he lost, right? He came back, he avenged it. I think he beat Matt Hughes twice, right? He beat Matt Serra once, he beat Matt Hughes twice. And I get all of that. John Jones has had multiple mistakes that he's made. Arguably, the Dominic Reyes fight was like a large mistake. He I mean, I didn't believe he won. But I'm willing to say that, you know what, he deserves the belt. It's fine. But I feel like he approached that fight wrong. And even in the fight where like he got DQ'd for the 12-6, he dominated that fight, but he made a mistake. He should have never used those elbows. He knew that it was illegal. And I don't agree with the disqualification. I don't think that he should have been disqualified, but it was still a mistake that he made. I think the reason why I rate Khabib so highly is because I've never seen him make a mistake in his career. Right? He's never slipped up. And that may be a function of, yeah, sure, he hasn't fought as much. But he's been through a lot, and throughout everything, he's never made a mistake. He has fought some tough guys. Like Tyron mentioned, in his first fight was difficult, right? It wasn't like he was given easy fights to begin with, right? And then Alaya Quinta, we have to shout out Alaya Quinta. It sounds like he was the only one who looked like a problem for Khabib, right? He took Khabib to decision, and since then Khabib has never gone to decision. But I feel like he's dominated. One, he's so dominant, and two, he's had such a flawless career where he's never been busted for steroids. He's never done something illegal. He's never been caught out for any of these things, and he's dominated almost every opponent that he's come up against. And it just looks like no one else at 155 is even close. The only fight I would be excited to see. I respect Khabib's decision, and I'm happy for him to leave the octagon. He's made a promise to his mother. I'm happy to see him keep that promise. But if I ever saw him in the octagon again, I would love to see him fight GSP, just because that is a narrative. I don't think the Khabib-Tony fight is a narrative anymore, because I don't see how Tony would beat him. It makes no sense to me. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I think Tony would get absolutely mauled. I just don't see how you could finish him. A lot of people say, oh, elbows from the bottom, he'll cut him, and hopefully, yeah. But I haven't seen even the Kevin Lee fight, and I thought I think Kevin Lee is a brilliant wrestler, but I just don't think Kevin Lee has the gas tank that Khabib has. Kevin Lee gassed out after a certain while. He couldn't keep doing the same thing, so that's why Tony got the submission. I think it was a triangle he won by. He got the submission after he gassed out. I don't think actually it was a triangle. I think it may have been something else. I just don't remember this point. So I just don't see how Tony could win. I don't see how a person in that weight class. In fact, a lot of people say Charles Oliveira. He's brilliant. I've seen him fight. He's good on his feet. He dominated Kevin Lee the last time he fought him. But I just don't see them at that level. In my opinion, no one in the lightweight division. GSP, and a lot of people say, oh, GSP is really good, etc., etc. But one thing that people don't understand is there's a thing called age. And no matter what you say, the older you get, he mentioned himself. He said cutting weight at an older age is much more difficult than it would be for him, say, 10 years ago. So if he'd have to even cut down to 170, he's not. And people say, oh, he's a small dude. He's smaller than Khabib. Khabib is younger than him. Khabib can make the cut to 155 easier, or Khabib can cut even to 170 easier than, say, GSP would, even though GSP's been at that weight division for years. The last time he fought, I think, was 2018, and before that he fought 4 years ago. So that's a total of 6 years since he's made 170. 6 years of not making 170 is a huge thing, even if they do decide to fight at 170. So I just don't see that fight going in GSP's favor, even if they fight right now. That's just a personal opinion. It's only because of the weight cut. It's not because of the skill set. I feel GSP is, if not as good, better than Khabib, but I just don't see it happening right now.
I have to agree with. So they did say that if they fought, it would be at a catch weight, right? They would decide what weight they could come down to, because he said there's no way he's making 155. He said it had to be like a 65 or 70. The reason I would like to see GSP fight Khabib, and I do think the age will play into the fact I don't think GSP wins that fight, but I think GSP has a lot more in his arsenal than most people that have gone up against Khabib have. GSP is unbelievably technically gifted on the feet, and he has ridiculously good wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I think it's just a fight that would interest me. I don't see GSP winning, but it would be a fight that interests me, right? I don't see the Tony fight interest me. I know Tony is extremely versatile, right? He's extremely good on his back. He has a lot of chokes that he can do. The Dars is unbelievable. He's got an unbelievable skill set, but I just think the strength of Khabib will overpower him. by like a huge margin. I think that'll play a huge factor into whether or not that fight goes the distance, which I don't ever see it go. I see Khabib finish him pretty early.
Yeah. Also, if you see them rehydrate, if you see Khabib and Tony rehydrate, you see Khabib looking like a whole different human being the next after another 6, 8 hours, 7 hours. See Khabib, if you see Tony, he's close to similar to what he was. He may have put on, say, about 15 pounds, 15 to 20 pounds, but Khabib's a whole 25 pounds heavier. 20. He looked huge. He looked like in my opinion, he could go to welterweight and be probably bigger than a few guys there.
Yeah, I think the only problem with the welterweight discussion is that Kamaru Usman is too big. Kamaru Usman is huge. Kamaru Usman is, I don't know how he makes that weight cut down to 170. I have no idea how he does it. But I feel like that's why it's a whole other ballgame, because that guy, those guys at 170 are huge. Especially
even even Colby Covington. You see the fight he had. My God, that guy can fight, dude. He had a gas tank. The only reason I think the only reason first of all he lost the fight is because Kamaru was just that good.
Yeah.
He was just that good. But I feel the closest person to beating Kamaru at any weight is probably going to be Colby, in my opinion. I like Gilbert Burns' chances, but then he's also lost to, say, people like Dan Hooker at 155 when he did cut down. And Dan Hooker is a slightly taller guy. So he did have issues when he fought a taller person. Kamaru is taller than him. So in that way, I see, Kamaru being extremely dominant for a couple of more fights, maybe until he moves up. And yeah, exactly coming to your point, Khabib will have an issue fighting these bigger guys. People say, oh, he's extremely dominant and see what he's done to this one, see what he's done to that one. Connor's fought at welterweight, you need to know. That's all cool at lightweight. But I think welterweight, these guys, Tyron Woodley being exactly the same height as Khabib, 5'9". He goes up to 200 pounds. That little frame goes up to 200 pounds. It's just built differently. So I think, yeah, I just don't see anyone coming close to beating him at lightweight and welterweight. No way.
To your point, the only reason I think Colby Covington is the only one that poses a threat for Kamaru, and I rate Gilbert Burns. I think it'll be a hard fight for Usman, but I think Usman wins that. The only reason I think Colby is the one who will pose the biggest challenge is because he's the only one I can think of that can make sure Kamaru doesn't use his wrestling. I think Colby's wrestling is so supreme that he makes Usman stand and bang with him. And by no means is Colby a good striker. I mean, he's decent, but he's not elite. He's not like a Wonder Boy or an Izzy or any of those guys, right? But you can tell that in that fight, no one tried to wrestle, right? When they fought, neither of them shot for a single takedown. They went and they just started throwing these big bombs, right? Which eventually broke Colby's jaw. But yeah, I think that's the fight to make. Anyway, boys, it was great talking to you guys. Definitely should have this again with the fights coming up. We should do this again, run it back. But anyway, for all our listeners, check us out on our website. It's www.thinksports.co.in. Also follow us on all our social media. I'll have Devin and Tyron social media in the description as well. You can go follow them. Share some love with Tyron and Devin. They need it. But anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace.